better, but still a lot of work ahead.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Monday, November 4th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Still searching for a great candidate for your company? Don't just search, match with Indeed. Whoo, can you feel the relief here for the Boston Bruins after they posted back-to-back wins over the weekend? And not just that, back-to-back shutouts over the Philadelphia Flyers and the Seattle Kraken, really easing some of that pressure that they were feeling following a poor week last week. We're going to get into the storylines, stats, and signals from those two games. Quick reminder before we get started, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. Now, the Bruins were facing immense pressure heading into this weekend's action, back-to-back games against the Philadelphia Flyers and the Seattle Kraken. And Charlie McAvoy even said after Sunday's win over Seattle that there had been a lot of soul searching going on. A lot of people trying to find their games, himself included. But he said one of the things they wanted to do was simplify the whole process, keep it small, play hard, worry about defending, and start from their end up. And back-to-back shutouts is a great place to start trying to find their identity and turn it around. The Bruins, there's still a lot of work to be done. They're only back to 500, and they're currently 5th in the Atlantic Division. But those two wins were so needed. And in the fact that they were able to get shutouts, Joonas Korpisalo posting the shutout against Philly, his second straight strong start against the Flyers, where they wasted the first one last week. And then Jeremy Swayman coming out, posting a shutout against the Seattle Kraken, a game in which the Bruins dominated possession from pretty much the word go. At one point, the shots were like 17-1 or something like that. Really simplifying things and getting the job done in a big way. McAvoy said they've been pretty busy lately. The schedule has been kind of weird, and they haven't really had a lot of time to bond or come together. They do have some sort of team activity planned for this week, according to Scott McLaughlin of WEEI. McAvoy didn't share those details, but yeah, there have been some soul searching. A lot of guys asking themselves what they can do more to help this team get out of the funk, and to have it happen like this, super rewarding. I felt great for Charlie Coyle, for example, who had that unbelievable goal on Joy Decord on Sunday. Guys are stepping up. McAvoy, I would say, arguably played the best two games of the season this weekend. He was driving play from the back end, jumping into the offense. 7 shots on goal on Sunday, but also, of course, helping his goaltenders get the 2 shutouts. Marchand also probably played his best 2 games of the season, 3 points over the weekend. Charlie Coyle was amazing on Sunday. Justin Brazeau scored both days and now has 4 goals in 6 games since being a healthy scratch. Elias Lindholm had assists in back-to-back games after going 7 games without a point. Nikita Zadorov played like the defenseman they were hoping to get. He and McAvoy had some real chemistry. Hampus Lindholm, he's been arguably Boston's best defenseman. Continue that going. Trent Frederick didn't get on the scoreboard, but he stood up for line mate Matt Poitras with a fight after taking a big hit from Adam Larson. Morgan Geekie played a bit better after being healthy scratched. And of course, Korpisalo and Swayman each recorded their first shutout of the season. So all huge, all impactful, and the storyline for the Bruins, 2 big shutout wins. You know, the Flyers and Kraken, not exactly NHL powerhouses, but still, they needed those 2 wins. Now, not everything was as hunky-dory, as my mom used to say. David Pastrnak kind of getting benched in the third period of Sunday's game against the Kraken. And all head coach Jim Montgomery would say after the game was that it was a coach's decision. That's all he was going to say. Now, Pastrnak played pretty well. I guess you could say he did kind of waste a golden opportunity to score in the first period, where he had 2-on-1 with Marchand, but his line with Marchand Lindholm was dominating. He had 7 shots through 2 periods, so matching what McAvoy was able to record in 3 periods, but he was stapled to the bench. Pasta al denting the bench in the third period, most likely because of a brutal turnover late in the second period with the Bruins on the power play, where it led to a scoring chance for the Seattle Kraken. And if they did score there, it would have possibly changed the momentum and made it a 2-1 game heading into the third period instead of a 2 or 3-0 game if the Bruins had been able to score on that power play. It wasn't dissimilar to the play by Marchand, the captain, a couple weeks ago in Seattle, where Jim Montgomery kind of lost it on the bench and held his captain accountable. Now, Montgomery's not adverse to holding Pastrnak accountable. He called him out during the playoffs last year, and Pastrnak responded with the overtime game winner against the Toronto Maple Leafs in Game 7. Boston's next opponent just happens to be Toronto on Tuesday. So hopefully he responds in the same way. Brad Marchand was open a couple weeks ago and saying that nobody is above accountability and he welcomes it. We'll see how Pasta responds here. If it's negative in any way, then Jim Montgomery, who was already kind of on the hot seat without an extension, he might be over pushing some buttons here. You don't want to lose your star player. But according to his teammates, Pastrnak handled the benching with a positive attitude. Charlie Coyle said Pasta wasn't silent on the bench. He was bringing energy. He was talking. He was into it. That's the sign of a good teammate right there. And that's why he wears a letter. There's no special treatment for anyone, Coyle said. That's how it should be. They all take responsibility. They're all competitive. They all want to play, but they have to be responsible in their own ways. And Monty holds them accountable. And it's only going to make them better as a team and individually, but as a team as well. And nobody would change that. McAvoy said the same thing. He knows the way Pasta prepares, the success he wants to have, how much of a competitor he is, and he's looking forward to seeing him in Toronto on Tuesday. He's going to have a great game. So it wasn't a perfect, drama-free weekend for the Bruins. You don't want to end with the benching of your best player, but if it sends the right message and Pastrnak responds in the right way, then hopefully it will have a positive effect, and Pasta will come out with one of the best games of the season here on Tuesday when they take on the Maple Leafs, a game that we will preview on tomorrow's episode of the podcast. So those were the big storylines over the weekend. Back-to-back shutouts, continued strong play from Korpisalo, a big game for Swayman, although not really tested that much. Some guys who needed to step up did, while a message was sent to the team's best player that he needs to play as such. We'll take a look at some key stats from the weekend, as well as some signals to take away moving forward here as the podcast continues. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. Think Justin Jefferson will get more than 83.5 yards next week? Christian McCaffrey will run for more than 75.5 yards? Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on PrizePicks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And they also have weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Every Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. If you're looking to hire, then there is no better place than Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. In the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to their worldwide data. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now. Support Locked On Bruins by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon for that $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply, but if you need to hire, you need Indeed. All right, the key stat that we need to look at for the Boston Bruins is 500. That's their point percentage after 13 games. They came into this weekend's action 4-6-1. They are now 6-6-1 for an even 500 record. They have 13 points, which is good for fourth in the Atlantic Division, but the Ottawa Senators and Detroit Red Wings both have 2 games in hand. And the Buffalo Sabres, Montreal Canadiens, who are at the bottom of the Atlantic, have a game in hand as well. We'll update the Atlantic Division power rankings more fully tomorrow. The Bruins also have still the second worst goal differential in the Atlantic Division. They're at -8 behind the Sabres, Red Wings, who are at -6, but well ahead of Montreal, who is at -17. The Bruins did, of course, play some fantastic defensive hockey over the weekend, especially in the game against the Kraken. The shot attempts were 51% in Boston's favor. Shots, however, were 59%, 33-23. A lot of those came later in the game for the Kraken as they were really pressing. High danger chances for the Bruins. They limited Seattle to just 4. Whereas the Bruins were able to generate 16. And expected goals in this one were 6 to 2.34 in favor of the Bruins, something that we have not seen very much here this season for the Boston Bruins. When it comes to individual player stats over the weekend, again, the Bruins had much needed production from some guys who quite simply had not been producing very much lately. You look at, again, Charlie Coyle with the big goal. Brad Marchand led the way with 3 points over the past 2 games. Elias Lindholm had 2 assists. Justin Brazeau had 2 goals. He's remained red hot. The only players who did not record a point over the weekend were Pavel Zacha, who unfortunately had a big goal wiped out because of a pretty questionable offside review. If he had just carried the puck over a little bit more instead of passing it back over the line, then he would have had that goal. Trent Frederick, no points over the weekend. He only had 2 shots in the 2 games. We really need to see him get going. The fourth line also kind of cooling off a bit. 0 points for Mark Kastelik, Cole Koepke, and John Beecher over the weekend. But we saw some big gains from some key players, especially Marchand, Lindholm, and Charlie Coyle over the weekend. And I thought, again, Charlie Coyle played some of his best hockey of the season Sunday against Seattle. Almost had a shorthanded goal. Pastrnak did lead the way with 11 shots in only 5 periods. But again, he had the unfortunate role of being a cheerleader in the third period of last night's game against Seattle after being benched. The Bruins overall, of course, still near the bottom when it comes to shot attempt differential 5-on-5. They rank 24th. When it comes to shot differential at 5-on-5, they rank 20th. Their PDO at the moment is a bit low they rank 18th at, well, it's exactly 100.1. The goaltending's been pretty good. They could still get a bit more scoring at 5-on-5, and that's where we really need to see them improve here, is at 5-on-5. Charlie Coyle, I don't believe, has a even strength goal yet this season. And again, they'll have a big opportunity to keep the momentum going with a game on Tuesday against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was great to see that shot generation from the back end from Charlie Coyle. He ranked second over the weekend among Bruins with 8 shots on goal. Pavel Zacha did have 7 shots on goal, but he remains stuck on 1 goal for the season after that disallowed goal. He only has 1 assist over his past 5 games. He is a player that really needs to continue to step up for this team in order for them to have some success. On the other side of things, Justin Brazeau, red hot. He's got 4 goals over his last 6 games or so. 2 goals over the weekend with 6 combined shots. He's a guy that is being counted on to provide some kind of third level scoring for this team. And Trent Frederick, a guy that really needs to get going. 2 shots over the weekend. He did have the fight, which really galvanized the team, but he's the guy they really need to get going in order to continue to keep the momentum going. John Beecher, 0 shots. Parker Witherspoon, 0 shots. Mason Lohrei was only in 1 game. He was a scratch on Sunday as the Bruins tried to mix things up and get Witherspoon some action. He played both games while Andrew Peeke and Mason Lohrei kind of swapped in and out of the lineup over the weekend. So those are some key stats. 20 minutes sat for David Pastrnak. The Bruins back at 500, and they need to really keep it going. Some guys still need to step up here in order to keep the momentum going. What are some signals we can take away from this weekend's action? And what's ahead for this team this week? We'll take a look at that here as the podcast continues. Listen up, renters. Ever feel like you're stuck in this loop of rent payments, just watching your money vanish into thin air? It's time to turn that rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. That's where Built Rewards comes in. Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Every month, pay your rent and watch the Built points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation, put your points towards a flight or hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotels and properties. You can also use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them towards a future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle-free through Built Rewards. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Built points have been consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. Earn points by paying rent right now when you join built.com/lockedonnhl. That's JOINBILT.com/lockedonnhl. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Join built.com/lockedonnhl to start earning points with your rent payments today. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and you can get in on the action right now with a big return. New customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and NHL all in one place. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The Bruins have a 3-game week on tap, all against Canadian opponents. They will take on the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto on Tuesday. That will be, of course, always a must watch when these two teams get together. They played back on October, 26th, the Bruins with the 4-3 overtime win. That was a game where they were coming off 3 straight losses and really needed that to relieve some pressure. They followed that up with the 2-0 loss to the Philadelphia Flyers and the 8-2 loss to Carolina. Now 2 straight wins, and they're looking to keep the momentum going against a team that's not really blowing away the competition either. And in particular, on the power play, the Toronto Maple Leafs rank 31st in the NHL, only capitalizing on 10% of their power play opportunities. That's something that we'll talk about more tomorrow as we preview that game. Following the game against Toronto, the Bruins will come back and take on the Flames at home. And then they will take on the Ottawa Senators at home on Saturday, October 9th. That is a game that will be on Hockey Night in Canada up here. So that is what is on tap this week. And the things we're looking at is for Marchand, Lindholm, and Pastrnak to continue to perform as a top line. David Pastrnak in particular, again, benched on Sunday in the third period. By all accounts, he responded well in the moment, but of course, there was the fact that the cameras were on him, and who knows what he was feeling inside or what was going on behind the scenes. But if he responds as he did back in the playoffs with the overtime game winner against Toronto, then hopefully, that will be a sign of things to come, that he's responding well to Jim Montgomery, who's pushing the right buttons. If he is kind of getting sick of it, then that could be leading towards something different if the Bruins continue to struggle. Pavel Zacha, Charlie Coyle, Justin Brazeau line, Frederick, Patra, Geeky on the third line. I'm still wondering whether or not Tyler Johnson is going to be signed here. And if I'm him, I'm wondering why I'm still hanging around in Boston. What are the Bruins waiting for here to sign this guy and get him in the mix? It's kind of surprising that he hasn't been signed. I thought that was forthcoming following the Riley Tufte wave and assignment to Providence. So we'll see if things happen there. But one of the signals to keep an eye on is the Bruins goaltending. They got really good performances from Joonas Korpisalo and Jeremy Swayman over the weekend. Is this the beginning of another super tandem? Maybe not. They still both have sub 900 save percentages. Swayman at 895, Korpisalo at 894. But Again, it takes some time for those relationships to form, for the tandem to find its way. And there are some positive signs there. And the fact that Korpisalo has put together 2 very solid starts in a row, said it all season long. They need him to perform when he's called upon, and he has done that over the past couple of games, albeit against a kind of offensively challenged team in the Philadelphia Flyers. A big week for the Boston Bruins. Again, the closer we get to Thanksgiving, if you are outside of the playoff race at that point, it is really difficult to stay in the mix, especially with the 3-point game in today's NHL. Right now, the Bruins are in the second wildcard spot by way of points. But in the Eastern Conference, if you go by point percentage, they are outside the playoff picture behind Toronto and Ottawa, who would be in 7th and 8th at the moment. So Ottawa's looking like a pretty good team. The Red Wings, 2 points back of the Bruins with 2 games in hand, and they have a better goal differential. So they're going to be hanging around. Sabres, Canadians, probably not. So it could be 6 teams there in the mix here as we continue on. And of course, you have to look at the Metropolitan Division as well, where teams like the Blue Jackets are at 500. The Penguins, always dangerous. The 4 teams that don't look very good right now: the Islanders, Sabres, Canadians, and Flyers. But we'll take a look at that more on tomorrow's episode when we update the power rankings. I hope you all had a great weekend. My wife ran her first half marathon on Sunday, which I was incredibly proud of, smashing her goal of 2:20. She finished in 2:13 down in Hamilton, right on the lake. So that was very fun to see. Yeah, just take care of yourselves this week, friends. Take care of each other. We'll be back tomorrow to discuss the Leafs game, to update the Atlantic Division power rankings. Don't forget to check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey next. Steal and Flip, giving you all the tips you need to get an edge over your league mates. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to Locked On Boston Bruins as well. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day.